Hello, I'm James Stanley. I'm one of the plugin music leaders for Quench Arts. And if you've just started making music, then this video today is to help you ask yourselves a few important questions. Those questions are, what do I want my music to sound like and why? If I'm writing lyrics, what are they going to be about? What subjects are important to me? How much of my personal story do I want to share with the world? And finally, if I plan to be an artist in the public eye, how do I want others to see me? How will I dress? How will I portray myself? This video will explain why those questions are important. It'll also talk about some of the things that might influence our answers to those questions. And ultimately, it's going to help us to see what the answers to those questions mean for us as musicians and specifically for our music. So firstly, these questions are important because when we answer them, we'll have more of an understanding of how our music and our identity or self-identity are linked and how much we decide to link those two things. Because whatever we're doing, wherever we are in the world, when people see us, they automatically make certain judgments about us. They look at the way that we're dressed, the things that we're doing, the things that we're saying, and they decide in their own minds who they think we are, what kind of person they think we are. And so once we start making music and publicly putting that out for people to hear, putting our face to it, those internal judgments that people are making are suddenly intensified. So that sounds potentially quite scary, which is why all of this is important. It's important for us to make our own decisions about how much of our true selves we really want to share with the rest of the world. We need to understand what our values are. We need to understand the things that are important to us, the things that we believe in, what our story is, what our experiences are, and then make a conscious decision about how much of that we want to share with other people. Through all of this, it's really important to state that there is no right or wrong answer on this. Lots of different musicians around the world answer these questions in completely different ways and decide to portray themselves in completely different ways. It might be that you want to be really authentic to yourself, to your values and your interests when you're releasing your music for other people to hear. It might be that you'd prefer to stand behind perhaps a stage name where people don't know that it's you that's talking about these certain issues. It might be that you want a bit of a blend of the two things, and perhaps if you're writing lyrics, you want them to be really personal about your experiences, but in terms of your image, you might want to keep that more private and personal and share something different with the world. Whatever decisions that you make sure you've thought about them. Make sure that they're conscious and that you really have decided how you want other people to see you and to see the music that you're making. There are a couple of things that can influence the answers that we give to those initial questions. We'll discuss a couple of them in this video. The first one is music industry pressure. So how much we are pressured into changing our automatic answers to some of those questions by the industry that we have to release our music into. The music industry looks at all music as a product, and a product is simply there to sell, to make money, hopefully for you, but also for other people. And so you have to ask yourself the question, will the music industry try and force you to change your self-identity to try and make it easier to sell your product or your music? Will you be asked to dress a certain way to appeal to a certain type of person? Will you be asked to act in a certain way, talk about specific subjects, because that makes you more marketable to the music industry? The entertainment industry as a whole is known for encouraging individuals to sometimes do things that they wouldn't otherwise be willing to do, over-sexualizing their output as an example, whether that's in lyrical content or their image. Certain genres of music have specific themes that come up over and over again. For example, can you make hip-hop, trap or drill music without referencing violence, gangs, drugs? Are you comfortable talking about those things? Are they a part of your story, a part of your values? The answer may be yes, the answer may be no. It's completely your decision. It's something that you just need to think about, making sure, as we've said, that you're making a conscious decision and that your values aren't being swayed by what other people would like you to do or like you to think or like you to believe. Ask yourself, if people heard your music, the subjects that are in the lyrics, the topics, the things that you're singing about, would you be happy with them being a reflection of you as an individual? Ultimately, it comes down to the fact that if you don't make a decision on this, somewhere down the line, somebody else will. So make sure you do it first. The second thing that might influence the answer to some of these questions are the way that making music makes us feel. So as an example, to explain this one, imagine that you've created a song. Imagine that you've released that song is incredibly successful. Lots of people hear it, listen to it, talk to you about how much they love the thing that you've done. You're going to get an element of pride, self-accomplishment from that. But put yourself into one of two camps. Firstly, imagine that song that you'd released was almost a carbon copy of somebody else's song. You talked about a subject that somebody else had already talked about. That wasn't necessarily how you felt, but you knew it had worked for them. You copied the music. The music was very, very similar to something that you'd heard before. There wasn't that much of you as a person or as a creative individual in that song. Would you still get enjoyment? Would it still make you feel good that people were liking that? Probably. Put yourself into the other camp. Your song that does incredibly well is very personal to you. It's about a subject that you're passionate about. It tells a story of something that's happened to you as an individual. The music is something that you've thought up of completely on your own that is very, very individual to you as an artist. How does that make you feel? Do you get a lot of self-fulfillment from it? Think about both of those scenarios and work out what's best for you. As we've said, there's no right or wrong answer to any of this. It might be that you really like to imitate what other people do, and doing it really well. There's a certain amount of artistry in that. It's an incredible skill to be able to create something that is popular. Being able to be more of an individual and a creative visionary in terms of what you're doing also has its pluses. Both have positives and negatives, things that you need to weigh up and things that you need to think about. There's a very famous piece of psychology called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's laid out on a triangle and it talks about some of the things that all of us need to be happy as human beings. And quite near the top, not quite at the pinnacle, but near the top, is something that's recognised that each of us need to a certain extent. We need feelings of accomplishment. And creating music is definitely that feeling of accomplishment. But that next level, that very pinnacle, according to this piece of psychology, is what's known as self-actualization. Achieving your full potential, including any kind of creative activities that you get involved in. So that suggests that being creative without this individual purpose and meaning is not as personally fulfilling to us as people as if we were to put some of our own self-identity into it. So again, we have to make this decision. How much self-identity is going to bring us this happiness, this self-fulfillment? And how much do we want to hold back? And the answer to this is going to be very different for different people. So some people might look at creating a character which is not at all their own self-identity as reaching their full potential. Others might feel like reaching their full potential can only be achieved if they are sharing their own personal story, their personal values, their personal identity. Each individual is going to be different. It's just up to you to work out which kind of individual you are when it comes to your music. It might seem that these questions are very deep. They're very difficult to answer. They depend on lots of different things, not the kind of thing that you're just going to be able to do in half an hour. It's going to be something that you're going to be constantly revisiting over the course of your artistic career. So it's good to start thinking about them now, but don't then just put them to bed and leave them. Keep coming back to them. Keep asking yourself these questions. The third thing that we said we'd discuss in this video is, once you've answered those questions, how is that going to impact you and impact your music? Well, it should hopefully put you in one of 4 broad categories, and it should give you more of an idea of how you will approach writing music, releasing music, and portraying yourself in the public eye. So you might be in category 1. I want to be open and honest about who I am and talk about my experiences for everyone to see. You might be in category 2. I need to think about what and how much I'm willing to share with others. 3. You might be more interested in trying to sound like others and appeal to a certain audience rather than being yourself. Or number 4, I choose not to share myself in my music at all. Whatever category you fall into, you will find other artists that work exactly the same way. Quench Arts have prepared a worksheet to help you work through this, to work out who you are as an artist and how that should impact you and your music going forward in your career.